What's up, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of the Kyber Council. I am your host, Fatal, aka The Playbook, and here, as always, co-hosting alongside me, we have Kin. How's it going?
And I'm not sure if we're live on Facebook or YouTube, rather. Oh, there we are. Never mind.
Double check.
It's good.
We're getting
Just
there.
delayed like 5-10 seconds.
Okay. So
But
far,
I'm
no
doing
technical
great.
difficulty. Getting there. Awesome. We have a awesome panel of guests going on. We're going to be talking a little bit about roster development, and we're all at kind of various points in the game, you know, different choices, different decision making, and different priorities too, and kind of all of that. And if we all want to just start from the top, this is supposed to be alphabetical. I had a late moment revelation, so forgive me, but I guess we'll follow the screen order. If you want to shout out your socials or anything else along the way, feel free while we're all here. Commander Cody, how's it going, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. I've watched your stuff for a while, so I'm pretty excited to be on.
Appreciate that. Real up and comer, I feel like. I'm seeing you more and more places. Hopefully more soon. I don't know. Tearing up the... Are you almost Division 3? I forget.
Yeah, I just hit Division 3, so I just unlocked C, so it kind of pushed me over to Div 3, so making my way up towards the big boys.
Yeah, lots of glitches fast track you in a real bad way. Game.
Yeah. It's like 300k, I think, total after I dumped all my stuff on it.
Slender figure just gone, tarnished. Moving right along, we have BitDynasty Man. How's it going?
Yeah, hello there, my fellow content creators. You can find me on YouTube, BitDynasty, obviously, and I'm also running a Swag of Life tool. So just a cool website because I just found YouTube is not a good way to organize content in a nice way that you can browse. So I've just created like a simple website where you can browse all my guides and videos and counters.
Awesome. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, that's video form content is fun, but definitely hearing that a lot more lately. Something else needs to happen here. So. Awesome. I'll have to check that out. Really good Galactic Challenge guys lately as well. Check that out. Scrybe.
Thanks.
Hi guys, how's it going? It's good to be here. I'm those of you that don't know me, I've been YouTubing for probably about 10 months now. I think started back in April last year. I mainly do YouTube and I do a bit of Twitch streaming as well. So yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Yeah, good to have you. Last but certainly not least, we also have...
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I've started around the same time, I think February or March of last year, and really just enjoying the YouTube community.
Yeah, it's a heck of a place. You compare the Galaxy Heroes in most games, it really does just kind of trip you up sometimes. We have 10,000 Discords and billion channels, and the fact that Galaxy Heroes is still YouTube dominant compared to every other game being on Twitch is just so crazy to me. But there's something really special about it, yeah, for sure. Yeah, good to have you. All right, we have a set of topics tonight. We're aiming to get it all done on time. Hasn't exactly worked out so far, but you know, it's always good to have something to reach for. I think the best person to take us off on that journey is going to be Ken. Take it away, man.
All right. Well, in the interest of moving things right along, as you mentioned, we're going to be talking about roster development. We'll go through the questions. We have 4 of them like always, but no need to review them before we start talking about them. So we'll just go ahead and dive in. The first question here is around balancing your roster development towards GAC or other like territory wars. Some people have very competitive guilds, or if you have TB goals that you're trying to do for cam shards or something like that. So just a general question, how do you choose what to balance? Which way do you spend your GP during certain times? Open question. We'll go ahead and start with Cody, especially as you just mentioned, unlocking C. That changes your roster development plan quite a bit.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So my main goal starting off has just been being successful in Arena. So I spent money on the Hyperdrive bundle, but until C, I just spent $50 on crystals to relic him up because I couldn't wait any longer. But like I don't spend a ton of money in the game compared to a bunch of the whales and stuff out there. So my main goal has been Arena for ships and for character Arena, just being able to get those crystals every day. Like my crystal income's usually around 800 to 900 crystals per day, and there's a lot of whales in my shard, so it's just kind of been focused on getting counters for what's the main thing up right now, and then a lot of that thankfully has corresponded pretty well to raids. So I went like after JKR early, which helped a ton in raids, and then went after Padme as well, just for counters and stuff. So a lot of that stuff has gone for other areas of the game, has maybe pretty successful in GAC too, but right now it's just been trying to keep up with the big boys in my shard to make sure I keep getting those crystals every day so I don't have to spend money to keep developing my roster the way I am now.
Yeah, well, that's definitely one of the best things. I think anybody who is, certainly all of us here in this group and probably most people in chat too, the benefit of placing in top few places in both Arena and Fleet is enormous. How long did it take you, I guess, when you switch metas, like when you go from, and now you have SEE, how normally are you always able to place in the top spots, or do you fall back now and then, or how does the meta change?
I fall back some. Thankfully, our shard, like you know how some shards are really organized, and mine's pretty organized, which has been helpful as far as not just getting hammered way back when I don't have the meta. Like right before I got C, my Darth Revan was dropping from like first to like 50 or 60 there for a couple of weeks, which was pretty rough having to make those climbs every day.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's been pretty decent. We got a load of like gas players in our shard now, which was really killing my Darth Revan there for a while because it just took a long time to get all of the requirements for C done. But now I'm dropping back to around 20 or so every day. But really, like it took me from Hyperdrive bundle, I didn't get up there right off the bat. Like when I got JKR to relics, when I first started really hitting top 10 consistently, and then after that, I joined the shard chat, and it's kind of been going from counter to counter after that because a lot of those guys have just kind of bought the new meta as they've come out and put a lot of effort into making sure they've got top rosters. There's some guys like I've got like maybe 28 relic characters or 30 relic characters. Some of the guys in my shard have like 80 or 90, kind of triple me up or so. They put a lot into their accounts.
A lot of the new whales, well, maybe not new, but newer whales for sure.
Yeah, or return whaley whales. Just wanted to go now where it's not as competitive in their shards.
Yep. All right. Well, I know BitDynasty and myself are in the same ship shard, which has somewhat of a shitty ship shard type of thing going on here, and there's a lot of chat in our organization in our shard chat. But BitDynasty, how about you? What is your roster development prioritization? How does that work out?
Yeah, I don't really specifically like focus on Grand Arena because Grand Arena is kind of like a free zones, right? You can put in whatever you want, whereas better focus, I think I'm more focused on territory battles because there you need to have specific characters to access specific missions, and as well as sold battles. Again, to get all those nice relic rewards, you need to have specific characters. Where with Grand Arena, you just put in whatever you have available in your roster. And similar like Code, being free to play, my main focus have been both arenas, and always I'm always like 1 or 2 metas behind. I unlock legendaries, second or third time around. So it has always been okay. How can I counter the latest meta? Now with Galactic Legends, this has changed somewhat because if you got one Galactic Legend, all 4 Galactic Legends are kind of meta now. So that's slightly changed now, but because throughout, I started playing in December 2015, so almost from beginning. So for a while, I've developed a lot of counters over the years, and all these counters that I developed because I was all the time behind the meta are now very useful in Grand Arena. So it's more of the teams that I have in Grand Arena wasn't specifically my focus, It was just a result of trying to fill in the other game modes in the game. And because personally, I don't think that like rewards in Grand Arena are so amazing that I will just develop specifically for Grand Arena. And as a free-to-play player, I'm more focused. Okay, how can I get better rewards out of it?
Yeah, it makes sense. That's a good point too about especially being free to play or behind the meta. You oftentimes, or not oftentimes, you're pretty much always required to be familiar with more difficult setups. All right, let's go to Scrybe. What's your priorities?
Well, at the risk of sounding a bit like a broken record, for me, it was always a focus on Arena. Arena first, because that's where all the crystals are. Rewards to develop your roster all stems from, Fleet Arena and Squad Arena. So I was very fortunate, I feel, when I started early on. I did a lot of research on YouTube channel, finding people like Warriors channel, for example, finding the Pillars Guide. That sort of thing was big when I first started playing. And that to me set me on a path of, hey, getting legendary characters, journey characters was a really good way to progress in Arena and climb through the ranks. And that got me more rewards. And because, like many of the guys here, I'm a free-to-play guy, I don't spend money. It's all the more important to get those crystals in if you want to stay relevant, I guess, in Arena. So I just focused on that area, and I was able then to sort of, I suppose back then it was keeping your roster very, very lean and only more or less getting legendary character requirements and then gearing up the teams around the legendaries. There was very little fluff back then. I think the game is in a different spot now. And of course, when I first started playing, Grand Arena wasn't around. So it certainly wasn't a consideration in my mind. There was territory wars, sure. But back then I was more focused on what team do I need to hit first every day in Arena. As soon as I've got that, do I then start going through getting all the other legendary characters as a just in case, what if something comes down the line that needs another legendary character? Or if I finish this team, I might as well have JTR as a backup for something. I might as well, go down and get CLS, get the Rebels. When I first started playing, it was more around, it was the Treya meta was around then. So the first real big meta shift for me as a free-to-play player was getting in on Bastila when she first came out, and Bastila led to JKR, and then JKR, and you went into DR, and then there was Malak, and so I went sort of that route, just hopping from legendary to legendary until I unlocked all of them, and then you have things like GLs come out, and there's no way you can keep on top of it from then on in. But that was generally my approach. Just try and fill out that those Squad Arena legendary requirements, and then make sure that you also develop your fleet alongside it to keep developing a strong roster. And it might not be the best approach to GAC because it does introduce a lot of fluff and you miss out on some very important tertiary teams. But on the whole, I do okay. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point that I think everybody here, the first three people that have been talking, contrary to, well, not contrary, but I really focus on GAC. I don't really care so much about the other game modes besides I want to score well and get rewards. But it is very, very interesting that you really don't need to have a specific roster to do well in GAC, because we were sort of comparing the numbers before, and we're all pretty much the same. I mean, a few little points here and there, but everybody gets to Kyber in the high hundreds. So an interesting point, really makes me think about my choices. StillPlays, what's your approach to roster balancing?
So I'm like you. Grand Arena is my favorite game mode. Everything I do is prioritizing Grand Arena. So just for context and comparison, like Squad Arena, I'm finishing, most of the year I was finishing like in the top 50, and as more and more of my Squad Arena gets Galactic Legends, I'm sliding a little bit back into the top 100. I have the fortune of having a weak ship shard, so I do climb to first in Fleet Arena every day, which that's really my crystal income. So I'm getting like 500 crystals per day. And then in terms of how I'm balancing my roster, the way that I think about it and why I don't care too much about Squad Arena is that all of these characters, all of these metas have an expiration date. I don't want to be in a position where these characters are no longer good enough to get you a good finish in Squad Arena, and then you have a bunch of bloat. So I'm always planning for that next shift, and I want to have gear on hand to pivot whenever that occurs, and have all of my gearing on my Squad Arena team to be just enough to make sure I'm finishing in the tiers that I care about for the rewards.
Yeah, the galaxy of hoarding. That's definitely what I think everybody who plays has to take that into consideration. All right, Fatal, how about you? What's your balance and prioritization?
It had to evolve over time. I was in a weird. I don't think many people shared this position. It sounded like Cody almost kind of was. I played the game at launch extremely casually, like I played to level 30 and then got bored. And then like came back a little bit later, got to 60, farmed like Wigs and Chays a little bit, like to 4 or 5 star. And then quit again. And then I started playing in the basically a couple of months before the Treya meta is where I was coming in. So I had a Rebels team, and that was kind of it. So I grabbed Palpatine and Thrawn. Nest came out, the Palpatine rework hit, and I knew that Imperial Probe Droid could assassinate Treya, and I climbed to top arena meta with a Gear 8 Nest, a Gear 8 Probe Droid, and my Shard getting extremely angry at me at first because these people had Treya within like 2 or 3 months of Heroic Sith Red going live. And I did, like, coming into the game, you know, you don't know what a Shard chat is at the time, and so I was just, you know, I'm a competitive person. I was just sniping him aggressively. Just like trying to, like, I want my payout. Like, not even thinking about crystals. I was just like, no, I want first place, man. And that ended up being a very persuasive way to get into your Shard chat, is just being incredibly annoying and not knowing it. But yeah, I basically, my strategy the whole time since then has been just kind of feel like I'm trying to play catch up and I want to compete at the highest level. So mostly meta chasing, not even necessarily Grand Arena oriented, although it all kind of ended up being the same blanket. I got the rep for being an incredibly lean account, but what that really just meant is that I missed all of the past old metas now that people have that suck. And yeah, that kind of ended up being what landed me where I am. I'm not free to play, certainly, nowhere even close, but given the circumstances and what I wanted to do, it wasn't really gonna work out that way either way. And yeah, I don't know, over time, I think the GL meta has definitely made things a little bit weirder. My strategy is certainly shifting as well, but yeah, I think competitive motivations have still kind of been core.
Makes sense. And that actually sort of leads us into our next topic here, is around what do we prioritize now? I think most of us have already sort of talked about the hoarding priority, but in general, the reasons for prioritization in the coming weeks, months, as we guess what's coming down the line or as we're building to something. So I'll say a little bit too about my balancing. I mentioned before I do balance just for GAC, but I've spent on the game pretty regularly since I started playing like 4 years ago, but not very much. I buy 99% of the time just crystals every couple of months. And I've been getting top 1, 2, 3 spots in arena and fleet since probably 3 months after starting the game, and then whenever fleet came out. So at my GP level, I try not to relic very much of anything unless I need it, because that really affects matchmaking. And then I just build out all the teams that I always wanted to play and I never could. So now I can get them up to relic levels slowly, and it's fun playing with Relic Phoenix. Or I'm sure Clash would be happy to hear that. And going forward, I'm really thinking more about what's odd noise? More about what I want to relic for raids and for TB. I've learned a lot actually watching Fatal, your videos, and smartly applying relics here and there where needed to for doing well at TB. But besides that, just hoarding. That's about it. Let's start sort of in reverse here. StillPlays, if you want to talk about what you're planning on in the next weeks, month, whatever, what's your prioritization?
Well, right now I'm working towards getting my first Galactic Legend, so I'm going for a Jedi Master Luke. So a lot of my planning goes around that, but because Grand Arena is important to me and I don't want to be affecting my matchmaking too much, I'm also trying to relic up characters that I think will be very good Grand Arena focused wise to offset some of those like Princess Leia relics and other weaker, the Biggs and Wedge relics, those weaker relics. And then I have a heavy bias towards new kits and new characters. So like Moff Gideon, Armor, like even though Armor doesn't seem to be that great right now, or Beskar Mando doesn't seem to be that great right now, I'm expecting something to happen in the future. I want to be ready for it. And early on, like there's a little bit of benefit to getting a lot of these newer characters ready as quickly as possible. Like Mon Mothma doesn't really help you out right now. But that first couple weeks of Mon Mothma was pretty dangerous. People didn't have counters planned out for it, didn't know how to handle it, and that was a lot of cheap wins in Grand Arena, where if you get some of these characters early, you can benefit. And then in general, like one of the things I do on my channel and my roster is I'm just trying to gear up everything I can up to gear 11, because that doesn't affect my matchmaking, but makes them relatively usable and helps me shift down the line. If anything changes within the game, I'm in this position where I can very quickly adjust my gearing and my focus and build up another team.
Yeah, actually, that's one thing that I think a lot of people miss out on, is that it's relatively cheap to gear to, maybe not gear 11 for some characters, but gear 10, gear 9. And even if you have reasonable mods on some of those characters, not so much when you're fighting relic characters, but like the armor at gear 8 or gear 9 is very, very usable. And it seems like
Speaking
they're
of
introducing... Yeah, no kidding. But it seems like they're introducing more of those characters, even Gideon at gear... probably like gear 10 or gear 11. And we haven't had these since like Nest in terms of being usable at lower gear star or star levels. So
just as,
cool.
as a side note there, where you're talking about Gideon, I actually I took in a 2-star gear 7 Moff Gideon as part of my Vader counter to Rey in Territory Wars. He survived. I survived with a full 5-man team thanks to him giving his what is it? His deceit, not deceit. Sorry, that's C. What is it? Demoralized.
Yeah.
That demoralized debuff. Everybody survived the ultimate, and I was able to get round a complete second wave of Merciless Massacre. Like those, like you're saying, those new character kits, they've got a lot of oomph in them that don't necessarily need a lot of gear, and that works perfectly in Grand Arena. So, sorry to jump in there.
Yeah, Chupio's that way for sure.
Yeah, Chupio's blind.
A lot of these new
too.
characters. These new characters, one of the things in common is just they, for the most part, all share stats, and that makes them very powerful at lower gear level and lower star counts.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Scrybe, feel free to anything else about your prioritization. What's your current planning?
If I was to say the team that I'm gearing up now is a priority, it'd probably surprise many of you. Because I'm, what am I, about 4.5 mil GP now. And I thought after I got my second GL, now would be a really good time after I got my 7-star Watt to probably gear up the Geos. Because I never got around to gearing them. So
Hey man, you don't have
right
to have
now,
a Geos team to get that Watt.
No, I've got 49 other people in my guild. They can get Watt. I was so hyper focused on trying to get my first GL because, as I mentioned earlier, Arena was always first priority for me. So I was like, GL Ray came out, I was like, gotta get GL Ray. And then Jedi Knight Luke came out and he had an awesome kit. So I was like, well, I can gear Geos after I get Jedi Knight Luke. And then Jedi Knight Luke led to Jedi Master Luke. And I was like, well, I could do Geos after I get Jedi Master Luke. And then I got Jedi Master Luke and I was like, I could really do with actually getting some more depth and variety in my roster outside of legendary characters and GLs and all their requirements. So I just finished relicking today Scion, and I had Treya like last week, and Thrawn, who I'd had since like he was my first legendary I unlocked, and until a month ago he was Gear 8. So he's now Relic 5. So I've been catching up on all these key, highly useful characters and teams. So right now it's Geos, but after that I'm going to be initiating my Galaxy of Hoarders mode and hoarding up mats until we see whatever GL is coming up next. And if they don't release anything for 3 months, I'm going to just dump a load of gear on SLKR, because that for me is imperative for helping my guild beat Krankle. Unfortunately, he is the only GL really that has the proper oomph to work in Krankle. I know you can use decent teams in P2 and P4 for like Jedi Master Luke and Rey. You get maybe 10% if you're lucky in P4 with a Rey under Jedi Knight Revan, for example. I've got all that set up, but really, if I want to help my guild, which is on the smaller side, get through the earlier stages, I need to get an SLKR and start working on that. So unless these new GLs turn out to be better in raids, which I doubt, because I don't think CG is ever going to make the mistake again of doing a SLKR Mark II for raids, because they messed raids up for themselves with SLKR's kit. I don't think we'll see another GL that performs quite the same there. So it's probably going to be SLKR after I do my Geos. Yeah, but other than that, hoarding and Geos.
Yeah, we'll see how long SLKR lasts.
Yeah.
Because they're reviewing it now.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how that goes.
I read the data mine. He's actually going to start making raid bosses stronger with his siphon. Weird. And actually, it wouldn't even change that counter, actually, I'm pretty sure. This is
No, because the way it's working at the moment, isn't it, in those 100% runs, is that you stack all your siphon till right at the end, and then you do it all in one go. So, if they try to reverse siphon or get the boss to mirror your siphon stack so it hits really hard, it won't matter too much because you'll do it all in like the last 4 hits.
Yeah, you'll be an ult, and it wouldn't actually change anything.
Yeah, exactly.
To just change Devour to eat GLs. And then problem solved.
Give it to the pig in P1.
Gamguard
you imagine
that? Reach across and eat Kylo only specifically.
Just gets his hatchet out, sets him up on a barbecue, and away you go.
All right, let's keep moving here. BitDynasty, what about you, prioritization-wise?
Yeah, I mean, as I touched initially, before GLs, it was just focused on getting counters built up for whatever the meta was, because I was always behind at least one meta, sometimes two. Once GL dropped, obviously, after I got my counters to both Rey and Kylo are up and running, then I started working to my first Galactic Legend. And I've got 2 accounts, so I'll just refer to one in this one. I went for Rey first, but I just found the whole process very tiring, because it's like, as a free-to-play, it's like every day, okay, do you have enough crystals for this gear? Do you have enough crystals for that gear? And also, farming like resistance heroes. Now, luckily, my resistance was all at gear 12 already, even Rose and Holdo, just because resistance was like my first gear 12 faction. That's how I got into my arena with Finn Zeta lead. I was taking out Treya, and whatever the meta was, original Finn Zeta was really good. So luckily, I didn't have a whole lot to go. Just get everybody to relic. So I got Rey. But because I just found this whole processing very tiring, I just made a conscious decision then. Okay, I focus on Galactic Legend, get the requirements done, and then in between, I do like a team that I get to relic as well, because at my level, I'm now like, 6.8 mil GP. If a character is not relic, it's not good, really. It's not really useful much. So for example, then in between, I said, okay, I'll do Night Sisters, but then Jedi Knight Luke dropped. Okay, fine, I did Jedi Knight Luke. And I did Kylo. I unlocked Kylo. Now I finally did Night Sisters, so relic my Night Sisters. I just need Piet now to relic, and then I'll be able to start unlocking Sith Eternal. So after that, then I'm just gonna start also looking to relicking some other versatile characters, such as that are useful like in territory battles, like Newt, and then some of the Jedi like Ezra, Barriss, maybe L3. And I've always wanted to find a place for Fulcrum and Visas, because I like them as the characters from Star Wars universe, but they're just not really that useful in the game. So I'm hoping maybe once they're relic, they might be able to do something. But that was the main thing for me. While I am solely focusing now on GLs because they're pretty much, the best character in any game mode, really, at the end of the day. So you can't go wrong with any of them, in my opinion. Especially in 3v3, Grand Arena,
Yeah.
GL counters are hard to come by. And for some reason with matchmaking, no matter how many GLs I have, my opponent always has one more, that's the funny thing. And also before I was trying to keep my GP low, I didn't put mods on characters, that I didn't use in Grand Arena. But then once I lost to a player who had a little bit higher GP than me because it was a tie. And since then, I'm like, no way. Since then, I put mods back on all characters. I don't worry too much about having bloat in my roster because if it comes to a tie again, I might have the higher GP. And I'm not a hoarder, so like I'm very bad at hoarding. Like if I have crystals, I never have more than 1 or 2,000 crystals. I just keep buying gear, keep equipping. Because I just like to use characters straight away rather than wait and then drop all the gear at once just to not inflate my GP for matchmaking. I'm not too worried about it that much. I just like to get my characters up, relic, ready to go, and then put mods on them and don't worry about it anymore. But that's how I found out that the whole tiring it's very tiring. Just keep focused on Galactic Legends. So I just found out for myself. Take a break between Galactic Legend, do Geos or Night Sisters, or in my other account I actually did Bounty Hunters. There's so much fun at Relic. So I think now actually, because for Sith Eternal you have to get the free Imperial Troopers to Relic anyway. So might as well. I think I'll just do Range Trooper and Death Trooper as well. I have them a gear 12, so I just push them to Relic. I just build out some fun team, like build one fun team in between of what you have to do, which is Galactic Legends. Just at the end of the day, it's a game, right? It's not about just doing what the meta is. Sometimes it's fun to just do something for yourself, or really something to enjoy and have fun with.
Troopers are definitely very fun. I think they're one of the most, well, Night Sisters too, but the whole like just being able to cycle them and go over and over is pretty enjoyable. But I collect as well. I collect those little green crosses on all of my characters. I want to make sure I have those everywhere.
So much fun.
Yeah. All right, Cody, how about you? What's your prioritization plan?
I'm working on just filling out my Sith Eternal Emperor for like my main goal right now. So like my Sith Empire are in there with him right now, but I want to get the trio, mainly Treya, because she's just so good in a lot of different counters, and I've been needing her for a while. So it's like she's my main focus relic right now. And then also Han too. There's a lot of people who use Watt as part of their GL defense lineup, and being able to take Watt out with one hit is pretty huge with Relic Han. So want to be able to get him up, and then almost have a negotiator unlocked too. So I've got 5-star malevolence, almost have a 5-star negotiator unlocked for GAC purposes. So I've been working on the ships around negotiator, trying to get all of those up and running. I need like Plo and some of those like ships you bring in. I've got like Anakin and Ahsoka and Houndstooth pretty good, but I got some more work to do on that fleet. And then I'm kind of like passively going after Ewoks too. I want to get 3PO, and I would love to get that that expose rebel team up and rolling. That looks really fun. And then I got three Imperial Troopers too that need 2 more to go with them. So trying to figure out exactly how I want to play all that out, because it would be fun to just kind of go and do all of that before I go after Kylo, but I may have to go after Kylo at some point too, because he's just such a good GL.
Yeah, he's stupidly overpowered, especially in PvE stuff, TBs and raids, and very strong.
This is good. Put him anywhere.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Fatal, how about you? What are you prioritizing?
I generally just am extremely picky about, am I going to use this in a competitive mode? It doesn't necessarily have to be Grand Arena, but it kind of ends up benefiting Grand Arena because it just means I'm anti-bloat for the most part. The only exception I can really think of is when I talk to a Chewbacca salesman, but whatever. Vandor's alright. You can still make good usage of him. But yeah, no, it's really just about trying to think long and hard of like, is this worth the gear? Not even just necessarily because like, oh, it'll affect my Grand Arena matchmaking, because like I'm actually trying to bloat that up now, but it's more just anything that I give to one person I could regret in any amount of time that those are resources gone for anyone else. So yeah, just trying to min-max on that for the most part. This is actually, as of last night, is like the first time that I actually just took my account and said like, all right, where can I just make the numbers get bigger to try to make GAC matchmaking spicier? I'm trying to hype up this next season. But even then, I was just saying like, ooh, maybe we can get Bacilla to Relic level 5. Ooh, maybe we Geonosian Brood Alpha. I don't give that stuff out regularly, especially if it's like a utility character. I was actually kind of surprised I took Basilish on Fallen to like Relic 2. I feel like she could maybe get away, depending on how you're using her, at like Relic 0. You just, keep her chilling there if you're really trying to, stay skinny. But yeah, I mean, this is a game all about resource management, and I try to avoid waste where possible. I don't give up anything for PvE modes unless I get dragged kicking and screaming. So like Dooku's combat mission and Darkside territory battles, for the longest time, I had like guild leader like DMing me just like, it's actually really not that bad to gear Dooku if you can fit it in. And I was just like, I might do Sith Eternal Emperor here in a month. Like if we're like about to get the, I think it's 33 star or whatever, and I need to do it, then I'll do it, but let me know. You gotta without. That's just generally where I'm at, is like, yeah, I try not to do anything for raids, I try not to do anything for territory battles. It's just all on the surface of trying to compete where I can.
You know what, Fatal, I've been watching your LSTB videos a while, and I don't know if I've seen you do the General Kenobi, Cody, and Sergeant mission yet. Those characters are on the up and coming, right?
Yeah, we're just gonna get the Galactic Legends Kenobi that's gonna get those Cody and Sergeant requirements, and I'll be on that mission real quick. Believe me. But until that day, or until there's no way. They're never gonna use the counter. I basically I gear what CG allows me to gear at this point, and then like catch up on old stuff. Like I did M-Chippers Bounty Hunters Mon Mothma instead of going Sith Eternal Emperor was like a weird priority that I did. And then we got chucked into a 3v3 Grand Arena season, and I'm pretty sure that ended up being a mistake overall. I thought it was like an interesting infrastructure idea of like the Eternal Emperor. The value on that is iffy. Of like, I knew I was gonna have to gear 4 extra characters after his Rex and him. But yeah, I had some fun with Mon Mothma. I had some fun with Bounty Hunters. Absolutely, I forget who said Relic Bounty Hunters are a blast, but 100%. You feel like you're doing something illegal with those Django missiles. It just feels wrong. Like the first time you ever try Kylo is like the similar feeling of like you do an AoE and people just vanish. And you're like, oh, that's just how it is now, huh? But yeah, I am just kind of CJ slave of like, I crammed Sith Eternal Emperor in a couple of like 2 weeks ago now at this point, and I did this as like it felt like the window was closing before we're supposed to be hoarding for whatever is coming next, and yeah, now I'm just gathering materials again. Eternal rest.
Gotta build up those green crosses.
Absolutely. That should be the tiebreaker
So,
in GAC.
Yeah.
Who has more Carbantis hoarded?
Or who has the most like the little gray pieces of relic materials? The first one. See who has higher counts.
Oh, the carbonite circuit boards. Certainly not me anymore. That's become such a crunch for me now.
It's so rough.
All right. Well, in the interest of
those pieces are hard. Yeah, I actually had to now start farming gear on the light side node, convert them because I'm out of gear for the lowest. Because after almost for the Galactic Legends, I'm all out of gear for those pieces.
Same boat, man. Same boat.
It's a tough one. And I've been playing, for more than 5 years, so I had a lot of stash of that low level gear.
All part of CG's
It's funny
plan.
that's what runs out for me more than the stuff you farm with Cantina energy, which is pretty ironic. All right. In the interest of time here, we're sort of going to combine the last 2 questions. So the question is, prioritizing our gear spends at the top end, whether that be taking characters to Relic or taking them to Relic 7, or Relic 5 or whatever you're taught, or Relic 8 now. What are the most valuable ones, either that you have done or that you're planning in the near future? And I'll start with this one. For me, Relic 8 is very interesting. And the ones I'm looking at now, I've done SLK and Gas, like, and some others, but those are the main ones I think that are important. So I'm looking now at characters like Fives or KRU, or even old DACA, actually. I think any character that stacks and or that is used in multiple places. So I'm waiting now really to see what the next big release is, GL or something like that, or new content. Maybe Galactic Conquest will change my priorities, but I'm very curious to see characters like a Relic 8 defense stacked KRU or Fives and what happens there, especially with the armor throwing even just 2 ingots on him. I think would be really interesting.
Just timing people out.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, raging people out, right? Yeah.
If they throw their phone, that's perfect. Let's start up at the top here. Cody, what's your next like prioritizations? What's the most valuable thing that you spent or you're planning on spending?
I mean, obviously GL is massive at Relic when you make that jump up. So that's obviously a big investment. I can't get R8 right now. My guild can't complete the challenge Grand Core raid, so I've just kind of been stuck at R7, which is fine. I really haven't had any issues with R8s in Arena like so far. I mean, it's made them a little tougher, but not too bad. I would still be able to take most of them out with more of the free to play counters like Darth Revan Malik against SLKR was no issue still getting that done. But probably some of the bigger ones in the past, like Yoda was huge right off the bat. Grandmaster Yoda, when I started throwing him with my JKR team, like him at Relic really just boosts the amount of damage that he can do for lower level players. So he was a big one. Malik, obviously huge at Relic. And he's really good at a lot of counters for higher level stuff too. So you need a lot of health and protection on him. So that R7 is pretty solid. But I've really like a few characters I've noticed a big difference with R7, but a lot of mine I've taken to R5 and have been just fine, or even R3 on some of them. And I think that they perform pretty close to R7 without having to dump all those extra materials in there. So that's kind of the ones that kind of stand out the most. Like JKR, like some of the legendary characters obviously are big relics when you're able to get them up. And there's a lot of them I would like. I would love to have like a Django, like you guys were talking about, just to blast somebody out with bounty hunters. But that's kind of how I look at it. Like a lot of my relics have been from requirements, not necessarily just because I needed or thought that they needed to be relic kind of thing with Sith Eternal and some of the stuff I've gone after having a relic. But I usually try to keep my roster lean if I can, as far as relics are concerned, by not going all the way to R7 if I don't have to, if I can still get the same use out of the character.
Yeah, R5, I think for very few characters, it's a lot of value going to R7 for what you have to spend. I mean, I think R5 is a great stopping point for many of them. BitDynasty, how about you? What is your next big or most important spends?
So my first relic 7 was Grandmaster Yoda for the same reason that Cody mentioned, because it was a Darth Revan meta, so I was taking in Jedi Revan. So I loved my Yoda. He was my first relic 7. And then I think all my 501st except Rex, they're all relic 7 as well. And after that, obviously Galactic Legend drop, and since then all relics have been going specifically for Galactic Legends. Especially the first two, Rey and Kylo. But now, after I'm getting close now to Sith Eternal, I do have a little bit more kind of capacity to start relicking some other characters. So I just get them to Relic 3, to be honest. Because going from Relic 3 to Relic 5, I don't find all that much benefit. And as being free to play going to Relic 7, it's very, very costly. Or, those... whatever Zine Biddle or whatever they're called, the ones that you need 10 to get to Relic 7. Those are quite rare. You can't even buy them with crystals like the others. At least you can or something. So they're very hard actually to get. for Relic 8, I actually have enough now. I have 40 pieces, so I could potentially take 2 characters to Relic 8, but you need all those other pieces still that are again too costly, so I'm not even worrying about Relic 8, to be honest, at the moment. I think it was a couple of days, just yesterday actually, I released a video on my channel, sorry for a shameless plug, going up against the Relic 7 and Relic 8 Negotiator, and it makes no difference at all. It makes it easier on offense from what I can see if you have a Relic 8, but from this defensive point of view, at least for me, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. Same going Relic 8 characters. Where I think where Relic 8 really makes a difference, as we can see, is in the new Rancor rate, where Kyle is doing some massive damage there. I think that's where it makes a difference. So from my point of view, just relicing now, get characters to just relic 1, so they're usable in Grand Arena and Territory Wars, Territory Battles, and then just get them to whatever they need to be for the requirements, really. And then I did get a couple of characters to Relic 5 just to fill out, for the Rancor raid a little bit the teams, because they need to be Relic 5, which I don't think it was necessary, but it is what it is.
Yeah, just going for the forcing people to relic for money, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just can I just add one? I just want to add one thing. Now, when you talk about relics, it was all well because I had nobody in Cantina to farm, but now we got Moff Gideon in Cantina, so it's like I stop farming relics for the next month or two while I'm farming Moff Gideon. So that's one of the things. Like with relics, I just feel like just being on Cantina, farming is tricky, especially for newer players that they have so many characters they still need to farm. So they're often then in dilemma to farm relics or to farm new characters.
Yeah, definitely. And Moff Gideon, at least, unless he's a requirement for whatever's coming next, he doesn't really need to be high. He doesn't need to be, 7-star to, as Scrybe was saying, function really great already anyway.
If you do it, you're doing it for the Gear 13 speed, basically.
Yeah. Which is nice. He can get pretty fast.
He's gonna have
Yes,
some
we need
impacts
speed.
real quick here. I'm not excited. I am and I'm not.
You should be, like, especially we can talk about that later, but he has a lot of good potential. Scrybe, how about you? What are you planning on?
Well, I think if I go back first and just talk about like what I felt like I got the most value out of was certainly early on in relics when they first came out. I think my first couple of relics were like the Sith Empire trio in particular. I think I took HK as well, which I don't think is necessary, but I kept their relics low even to this day. Like Darth Revan meta was around when relics released for me, and I took like Darth Revan, Bastila, Malak, and HK to relics, and they're still all at relic 1 apart from Malak, who's at relic 2. And I felt they're a team that you can take them to higher relics and they'll do great, but if you've got the speed right, they don't need relic levels. It's not even Malak. Like I used to operate the fast Malak, so I'd have Malak 1 speed faster than my Darth Revan to cleanse taunters, pre-taunters, so then I could go in with a AoE fear. And it doesn't matter what relic level the enemy team is. If you get that mass fear out of the game, you've got such momentum going that you win. So instead of taking them to higher relics, the first R7s that I did were actually Han and Chewie. And back then they weren't a requirement. These days, obviously, you need them for Jedi Knight Luke. But I think it's relic 6 for his unlock. But I have never had a single regret of taking those two to R7, because my God, is that fun. Especially like Han has got such utility now in Territory Wars and Grand Arena, just because he is one of the very few characters that get a bonus turn right at the start of the game, right? So he's your only way of getting out ahead of Watt, for example, which is invaluable. And at R7, if you've got R7, Han, and Chewie, even like relic Watts are going to struggle to survive the opening barrage. Like it's okay if they've got like a Gear 11 Watt, they'll probably die instantly. They just get melted. These days, a lot of people have got like an R5 Watt, which has got a big chunk of health. He's a lot more defensive. But when you've got them at R7 with good mods, you can at least get him down to his health, like get rid of all his protection. If not, take him out further. Really depends on how they've modded him. So I don't regret that investment in the slightest. And after them, I think I did Grievous. And I don't regret him either, because, you know, the capital ship Malevolence, he's one of the few guys I feel that benefits a lot from high relics. Typically, my approach usually is, if I'm going to take someone to R7, it's usually going to be someone who's an attacker. You know, you look at characters like General Luke, General Skywalker, any of the GLs, it's not a bad investment to take them to R7 because their stats are so inflated. Typically, after that, I might look at tanks for higher relic levels, just for the survivability and the additional armor and defense and all that sort of thing. But I think it might have been Fatal that mentioned it. Typically, support characters, I don't feel like they need a high investment. You know, like if it wasn't for the fact that I needed Jedi Knight Revan for a Crankor raid team, I would probably keep him at Relic 1. He needs speed. That's all he needs. He does good damage through virtue of his kit, right? You know, just because his kit is so well, I wouldn't say well built, but let's face it, it's just overpowered. Or at least it was certainly when he first came out. So I don't feel like he really benefits massively from being high relic levels. Obviously, there are other cases, tertiary characters that benefit even less so than him. But that's usually my approach. Anybody that's a side character that isn't a requirement for, you know, meeting some threshold like Crankor, or, for example, Shakti in the Cam mission, you kind of need her with at least some relic levels just for the additional survivability. But I do have her at R7. Just because I like her kit, to be honest, and I did some messing around. But as for next, for me, it's really, I'll be spending all those relic levels on, you know, next GL requirements, most likely First Order. As I mentioned before, it's probably going to be going down the SLKR route just for raid viability, and he's not a bad investment by any stretch of the imagination. And then, of course, I'll be taking him to R7. As for R8, right now, my guild is not beating the Crankor, hence the focus on me for getting Crankor teams right now. But if I was to R8 someone, again, it's going to be under the same principle. It's going to be characters that deal damage. You know, it's going to be SLKR when you get him. It'll be characters like Gas, like Jedi Knight Luke, someone who hits incredibly hard, because I find that is where you get the most value for it. You could look at characters such as, you know, General Kenobi or General Grievous and try and think, okay, they're capital ships that can give me the edge. But to be honest, I don't think it materially changes arenas. The jump from R7 to R8 is a nice bump, but anything I feel that works versus an R7 is going to work versus an R8. I haven't come across a team and I've thought, wow, well, I haven't lost against like an R8 SLKR in arena or anything like that, because it's more important to have the correct counter or to have something that beats it handedly. That one relic level is not going to be the difference between winning and losing, in my opinion. It's going to more be around your approach and your modding, you know, your strategy and your team. So for me, R8 is more about where does it benefit outside of the arena, and mostly that'll probably be raid characters, I guess. I suppose it can help in some ways in GAC as far as banner efficiency goes, or stripping banners. You're more likely to deal damage to an enemy team if they are chunkier, have higher attacking stats, etc. But yeah, that wouldn't be a deciding factor for me, just because I would have done it anyway for that character outside of GAC, and the GAC benefit would be a happy coincidence. So yeah, that'll be my approach. Sorry, I feel like I waffled quite a bit there. Apologies.
Oh, you're fine.
No, makes sense. All right, StillPlays. How about you?
So when it comes to the relics, I'm like Fatal. I try my hardest to avoid doing it in the first place. I'm very careful about who is increased in relic level. I think I only have 2 R7s right now. I try to avoid, like, anything above R5. The cost is so much, and as free to play, I need to be getting something out of it. And if I don't feel like I'm getting something out of it, I'm not going to be doing it. What I'm looking for in relics, or any character that I'm moving through that progression, is they need to alter how my opponent plays me, or they need to be able to solo or do some extreme damage on offense. So, like, I'm looking at Django right now, Sith Trooper, characters who are assisting all the time, who do double hits. Like, they're really dangerous at relics. And other, like, old Daka, like, characters with revives, they're changing how my opponent is going to approach my defense. So those are the relics that I'm looking for. And then in general, it's something that I'm trying not to do.
I think, yeah, R5, keeping it at R5 or only relicking for requirements saves your gear for other stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Fatal, you're the last one here, and then we might scooch in right under the 1 hour mark before questions.
I think we will. I'm a relegate skeptic for the most part. The criteria for me is I have to believe, with the exception of Kylo. I mean, everyone's same page on that. But for Kylo, or everything else except for Kylo, I would only want to do it if I thought that it was going to change a matchup. You know, if it enables a counter or if it blocks a counter. And for the most part, I haven't really seen anything that convinced me. Most of the time, I think that good modding is going to solve most of your issues. The one thing, I mean, I did cave once. Of course, with Relegate, there is the aspect of I made the number bigger. That's pretty fun. Vader was my first Relegate, and then everyone else did Kylo, and I immediately tanked to like rank 30 and challenge Rancor, so that was fun. And at first, I felt like Relegate Vader is a waste, but I'm kind of coming around. I got some really stupid mod slices, and I do think that there actually might be some extra hidden potential to unlock there. That's not an endorsement to relic him or relegate him. I'm not sure yet. It did actually matter in 3v3, or like if they had like a really good Relic 7 Revan with health stack, then you're happy to have the extra stats. But yeah, I mean, the one character that I did so far, aside from Kylo, I ended up kind of regretting so far. You know, if you're doing like, what's the difference between a 500k or a 700k saber toss, right? It's all the same that result in the end. So like, you know, Jedi Master Luke seems sick. His mastery stats, if you double them right off the bat as well, fantastic. But you know, if you're just killing Kylo with him, it's not really going to change anything, right? The Eternal Emperor, you know, you get some good mastery stacking over time. But again, if you're posting him on defense or whatever, I don't know that that's really changing his life at all. I'm kind of just holding, and partly just because I've been taking bad Rancor rewards for a while now, so I just don't even have that many materials to spend. But yeah, just left side gear 12 pieces have been probably the biggest issue for me in any character building now. So the idea of just tossing in, 5 or 6 pieces worth of the yellow salvage just to relegate one character is like, you better have a strong sell for me to make that leap. Otherwise, just don't know that the value proposition is there.
Yeah, it's quite pricey, and the gear 12 pieces that you need for the salvage. I think definitely that's the, I don't know, maybe not more difficult to get, but more valuable in most parts of the game.
Yeah, aside from, was there a said in chat, which we're about to get to in a second here, if I relegate something, it's going to be just to try to up matchmaking more. I'm trying to break through the barrier and get some spicy matches going. I still think Relegate's maybe a little bit too rich for my blood to just throw away all of that stuff, but also, like, we don't know if Relegates are going to be required somewhere as the new thing. I don't think it's that outlandish to assume that we might need it for whatever's coming next, so just feels a little bit irresponsible to keep spending it right now. Unless you're getting good ranks in the Rancor raid, in which case, you know, I guess go to your heart's content as long as you can sustain it, but yeah, just trying to bloat my GP where possible. It feels weird to be saying that, but Relegate is kind of limits for me. I just don't think it's worthwhile.
Makes sense. I think this is pretty much it. Should we go to questions? I saw also that someone, Boet, donated
yes,
to you, Fatal, in this wonderful group we have. That's pretty cool.
Yes, was gonna save it towards the end, similar to JSN, but I would be more than happy to get that now. We have Urs with the follow. Shout outs to Urs, of course. Nice to see him stopping by. But also as well, we have Boet with the $10 donation saying, everyone in this lovely call is awesome. Thank you all for the great streams and content. Yeah, I think a lot of different specialties in here. I think we actually make a pretty nice pairing. There's a lot of different perspectives. And yeah, a lot of different focuses. It's been pretty good. Yeah. So we do have a cast of questions. I think probably more than we could get to within reasonable time. Let's see. Here's a good question. I think we've come back to this every now and then, but I think this question is always changing. If you're just starting to play the game now, what would your first team to go for be? This is a very divisive question. Any thoughts?
Well, I just started a new account 11 weeks ago, right around Thanksgiving when the shard economy changed. To test it out, and I went with Empire, but I still think Phoenix makes too much sense to go after early on. Just getting those legendaries unlocked. You can get basically every legendary set up and prepared for before you hit level 85, and then you can just transition into the game.
Yeah, it's basically feels like it's in between Geos and Phoenix right now. I don't know if you all have any different paths in mind.
I mean, I think I might go Phoenix to First Order and just go after Kylo right off the bat. I know some people who've done that, who's been a part of my channel, and they've spent a little bit of money, as they've gone through everything. But going after a super OP GL right off the bat, once you get it, you're going to be pretty set.
Right. Yeah.
See, I'm still leaning ever so slightly towards Separatists into Padme, and then going for your first GL. And the reason I'd say that is because, particularly if you don't spend money, you have to try and get the absolute most value out of your investments. And when you think about sort of mid-game or early game metas for Arena, you're looking at characters like for example, Vader now, especially with Piet, and you're looking at Jedi Knight Revan, Darth Revan, Gas. You're looking at all these sorts of characters, and Padme can counter all of them in one team. And that one team also feeds into a Galactic Republic fleet, which is meta. And the requirements also feed into a Malevolence fleet, which is meta. So for me, it's like that is, I believe, probably the most cost-efficient way of going. If you're looking at it from just that perspective, you'd be able to go up, in both arenas fairly early on. And then you can switch your focus. And I would say you go for SLKR, because let's face it, SLKR, if you're a new player, he is the best option for efficiency. Because he will get you first in Arena, he'll get you good rewards in raids at all points. He will make you 4 out of 4 in TB and Darkside. So that would be my personal approach. But I do.
Have you done any like testing at lower levels with like the full new First Order lineup, like with Hux and Sith Trooper, how they do at low levels? Have you seen any of that?
I haven't. I really haven't. My only bone of contention would be against it is just because you do kind of neglect the fleet arena side of it, and that's another 400 crystals a day. That's incredibly useful if you hit top, of course. I haven't tested it, but I imagine it can do still can do incredibly well. I'm not sure how it would go up against the likes of Gas and Darth Revan. I think they'd probably fail at that point, but you'd get there earlier. You'd certainly get there earlier than Gas. You'd certainly get there earlier than a Malak team, for example. But I imagine Jedi Knight Revan would still walk over you, depending on modding, I guess. But I don't know. I think it has viability. I'm just trying to look at it from the side of where do you get the most benefit in all game modes, I guess. That would be my approach.
No, I completely agree. I recommended your route and I still recommend that route to new players who ask me all the time. And I'm just kind of wondering. I'm wondering how the First Order would do. So I was just wondering if anybody had tested that out, because I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I recommend your route, but I also think Kylo is so viable. I don't know how quick you can get him now with the double shard drops and everything.
I think it's more the gear.
Well, the one thing I want to know.
Sorry, I'm not.
You can't unlock Padme until level 85. So because of the shard economy change, you can get Palpatine and Thrawn unlocked like by level 60, 70. Then there's a whole long period where you can get your separatists ready for that Padme shift. The shard economy changes has drastically changed that early game period, and because of the amount of time in there, you have the time to do both and more.
It's a very valid point. Like I haven't done the early game now I've been playing 2.5 years. That's the last time I did early game. But yeah, the shard economy change would absolutely change how you go about that, in particular when it comes to gear, because you'll certainly be out sharding characters before you have the gear ready, right? Because it's not like we've got double gear drops. I'm still waiting on that one, CG. Let's go.
Yeah.
So, and let's face it, the gear requirements to unlock Palpatine and Thrawn are incredibly generous when you compare it to more recent events. You can get them with Gear 8 Phoenix. That's not a big investment. And particularly now with Vader's changes, he's so much more useful now in the early game. So you probably do have a very valid point. You probably do have the time for it. And it's not a wasted investment at all, because all those characters are useful from start to finish. Palps and Vader and Thrawn, and then you've obviously got that would feed into getting R2 and CLS, and they're still incredibly viable now at the end game. I mean, R2 maybe less so, but CLS is still an incredible team now with Chupia. So yeah, there's a lot of ways, and I like that sort of diverse choice for the early game. That's good.
Yeah, it shows. It's certainly better than just telling everyone to go Phoenix and just get intro to the White Noodle fight to end all.
Still have those memories of frustration.
That's why
just Chopper and Kanan pulling each other up.
I'm almost a little bit sad.
Which one's
right
worse, that or JKR? Which one's the worst mirror match?
Phoenix is worse.
JKR, you can out-mod to be done in 98 seconds, so I'm a little bit biased on that answer, but...
Yeah, and JKR is like a puzzle. You can almost always win the puzzle against the AI unless they just mark Jolie over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. I don't know. I hated both of those metas.
That's fair.
The JKR meta, the at least for me, it was like 4-minute mirror matches, 5 fights a day, every day, until Darth Revan came out and everybody had a collective sigh of relief when every match finished in 60 seconds. It was just like, oh, this is nice.
I guess that is the wonderful thing about being behind the meta. You don't have to deal with mirror matches. While everybody were pulling their hair out with playing 5-minute mirror matches, I was using Ray Jedi training to take on Jedi Knight Revans, and it worked great.
Nice.
It took me, I think, about 2 minutes to take down Revan teams, And I'm like, well, just use Ray then, if you don't like mirror matches. And
I skipped the JKR
Phoenix, I
meta.
can't say because I've been playing for so long. In my case, Phoenix was never in arena anyway, so I can't speak for Phoenix.
I was using not JTR, but I was using Night Sisters to kill JKR teams. That was pretty fun too.
Speaking of the AI getting smart with marks, though, the sheer terror when the marks keep on dropping on docket there, and you're just like, oh god.
Yeah.
You're
okay.
in
I'll
for
wait
a
5 minutes.
And you're just screaming, anyone else? Anyone else?
She's the most healthy character. How dare you? No. I do want to fold in a question, kind of pairing well with this topic, though, and this is one that I've kind of struggled with myself trying to give people advice, is how do you know when it is time to go for your first GL? Because, I think we've already kind of laid out the possible opening routes, but just because you start to work on a GL first, I think doesn't necessarily mean that you get there, right? Talking about fleet income, we haven't even talked about fleets once this match, which is kind of how I treat my own fleet development. We just don't talk about that. But yeah, what do you all think about that, of when you go for your first GL? That's been really tough for me, because that's a really high wall to get over, right? What do y'all think?
Well, I guess I've got a kind of unique perspective on this, because I've got 2 accounts that are in the same shard arena. And my main account, I obviously treated that as very much meta chasing. So I went for a GL straight away. And my alt account got his first GL like 2 weeks ago. So I was climbing an arena, getting to second because I have the same payout as myself. So I prioritize my main account. My main account gets first. My alt account can slum it in second, right? So my alt account had to climb with, counters, using stuff like Vader to kill Rey, using DR to take out SLKR. I even did it for a time, used Treya lead with Vader to take out SLKR. And I've done, the Gas 5's Han and Chewie cheese. So whilst it is entirely possible to climb for a significant amount of time versus GLs, it's not, I don't want to say it's not fun, because it is fun when you're like, I took out this Relic 7 SLKR and all I used was Gas 5s and Chewie. I'm so good. You still fall like a rock, and it's not fun to wake up the next day and think, oh my God, I'm in 59th. I've got to spend the next 2 hours climbing on this account. So I guess go for it as soon as it's an inconvenience for you not to go for it. It would be my recommendation. Sooner is probably better than later, but not too soon, so that you get to a point where you have zero depth in your roster whatsoever, and all you've got is a GL and nothing else, especially if you care about GAC, because then it'll be a case of, okay, I set my SLKR on defense and I've got nothing to attack with. I win through virtue of he can't breach my walls, but that's kind of boring from my perspective, I guess. So I like to have at least a little bit of roundness to my roster, so I've got some selection.
And one thing I'll add in there as well around the arena climb and arena crystal income, I think one thing that can help all players, but especially new players, is organize or join the organized arena group or chat, because that can make your sort of pause while you stop going outwards and go for your GL. That can make your climb or having them defend you against other people or something a lot less stressful, and still keep your income not having to spend as much on refreshes, basically.
100%. I know it's not always possible for everybody, right? Depending on your shard,
for sure.
Some people like gatekeep that shard chat. I was very fortunate in I have a very chilled shard chat, and I got invited to it when I hit top 50 for the first time or something like that. And that was quite early on in my Swigger days, and it's been very welcoming all the way through. We don't exclude people. It's just a case of, if you can climb, then come join. And it's all about, don't hit people when they're climbing, make their climbs easier, And I would definitely recommend, if you can get into your shard chat, absolutely do it, because it's so beneficial to everybody. Nobody wants to accidentally annoy someone else who's climbing, and then you make someone an enemy. Unless you're fatal, of course, and then you deliberately do it until they invite you. With a stick until you get into the shard chat.
My defense, I didn't know. I was just like, I'm going for first place.
Course,
Let's do it.
Were you one of those people that were climbing to first place like 12 hours after your payout just because you had some time?
No, but I was just, we got to the point where he would start locking, and so I would counter his lock and leave like 2 minutes left so that he wouldn't have time to finish the battle. Then he had someone come and lock me with him, so then I would lock like 13 minutes ahead of time and like get out of the battle, refresh, and then jump back in. I was a real dick and didn't really know, but I got those ranks.
The glory days.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I think for me personally, the answer that I've been trying to give now that feels the most responsible is work on your income, and I think that's where the geo opener, we said people don't really care about ships, so even though it feels like really bad advice to be like, yeah, man, you should just get really into ships, that's your easiest early income. And the one thing I feel a little bit bad about giving advice on, but has certainly been the case for me, is to be aggressive with hunting for guild opportunities. I think it's really easy to get into your first guild and, you make a lot of friends and you get really attached, and certainly it was hard to make the decision, but, pretty much every time that I left a guild and went to another one, things got a lot better really quick. You go from a guild that's not doing heroic 6th raid to a guild that is doing heroic 6th raid. That's already insane. And then if you happen to get in a guild that is doing heroic 6th raid and also they're lazy, and you can get it at top 10, and you're a fairly new account, my god, you are just killing it right now. Or even, Mercs is something that, you might necessarily have to be, opportunity hunting. I'm not saying it's necessarily easy to find, but if you can be doing that as well, I mean, that's all Galactic Legends really come down to, right? Is there is just a sheer amount of total income that you have to reach over time. And whatever path you go, I think you need to try to get a certain amount of that if you want to get it within a reasonable amount of time, The concern I have for the first order opener is, like, I don't know how well it's going to perform in Shard Arena or Squad Arena, so I don't know how much better your Crystal Income is going to get there, but, like, Finalizer, I mean, the Silencer is a fantastic ship, don't get me wrong, but, like, I don't know how well it performs. I mean, I shouldn't be speaking on ships in general, so I can't really speak to that, but if it can't necessarily compete with Geos, that would be a concern to me.
It does pretty decent. I mean, it's taken out Negotiators and Malevolences in my shard right now. So if you do well with it and you get that ship up and running, you probably can do, especially in a new shard, do pretty well. But I think you guys both had a really good answer there, though, is focus on ships if you're going after GLs, because you're going to be behind the meta and arena, especially if you're going after Kylo. There's going to be your crystal income right there if you've got good ships going on. And then, like Scrybe said, like, do it when you feel like you can afford it. So if you're doing well in ships and you're getting 400 crystals every day, then, you can go after a GL because you've got the crystal income to start investing in those characters. But if you're getting, 100 crystals every day and that's your total crystal income, it's going to take you a long time to get those GL requirements in.
It's long enough when you...
It's all relative.
First
Depends
right?
on what you For context, I have 0 GLs. I have a 6 million GP account, and I'm still finishing in the top 100 of my squad arena. You can put it off for a long time. I'm getting about to the limit where I can put it off, but you can put it off.
That's true. It's fair. All right, I think we'll
maybe I'm just jaded at this point, and I'm like, if I'm not getting first, I'm not getting anywhere.
It does feel like that sometimes. I mean,
First in fleet.
Once you start tasting those 900 crystals for the first time, the idea of going down to anything less is just like,
it's an addiction.
Insulting. Just like,
I've got 25k crystals saved up. I'm not hungry.
Man,
good job.
Respect. I cannot. Like, if that number gets past like 3 digits, I'm thinking like, all right, what kind of damage can we do right now? One last one. Let's see. What should you do if your guild is not currently able to complete challenge rank 4? We might have almost hit on that a little bit already, but I know that Scrybe, you are specifically in that spot. Do you have any interest aside from Kylo? Are there any other concerted efforts on that front?
Well, normally, if somebody is in a guild that is not clearing Crankle, your options are either to find a guild that is clearing Crankle or to try and push to get your guild there. I'm in the boat of I'm now my guild leader, so I have to push for it because I can't just leave my guild. That would just be wrong at this point. So I've made some changes within the guild, and I've made requests for people to gear towards specific Crankle teams. But I've done it in a way that is considerate of people's time and investment, right? So I've asked people to do stuff like try and get AGL, preferably if you can go for either Ray or SLKR because you'll get the most benefit out of it, in my opinion. Consider taking Watt to R5. Watt is a great character at R5 at any level, really. It's not a wasted investment. I'm not asking for much here. Just go for a GL, get an R5 Watt, maybe consider getting things that will help within the Crankle raid and try and do it in a reasonable time. So I think my guild is currently maybe 2 months away from being Rankle ready. So I'm okay to slum that out. But really, if you are in that position whereby you feel you really need to get R8, then consider moving. But I don't know. I don't think that the benefit from R8 at this point is really worth upsetting your guild choice over. If you're already in a guild that is doing well in TB, for example, and getting good rewards there, light side and dark side geo, for example, I wouldn't change guilds just for that, because right now the Relic 8 is not a game changer. If it suddenly becomes a requirement for the next set of GLs, you need to have, I don't know, Relic 8 General Kenobi for Jedi Master Kenobi, Relic 8 Palpatine or Sidious or something. God, that would be disgusting, wouldn't it?
It would be Ki-Adi-Mundi, Relicate Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Oh God, don't even see if that throws another spanner into the works. If they start requesting a Relicate Ki-Adi-Mundi for any sort of legendary event, could you imagine the mass exodus of people just being like, "I'm going to a better guild. I'm going to a better guild. I need Crankor. I need people that are getting 25 cam shards per TB or something." That would be horrific if you ask me. But until that point comes, I would say don't make Crankor a massive priority. Be cognizant of it and try and reach for it. I wouldn't make any big sweeping changes just yet. That would be my take on it, I guess.
To kind of tag that too, like if you're getting good rewards, like I've been offered some bigger guilds, I think mainly just because my YouTube channel. But I I like the guys that I play with a lot, so we have a lot of fun together. But then two, like I finish top 10 in Sith every time, and that's a huge amount of gear that gets me from gear 12 to relic on characters. Like if I jump to a guild that had a bunch of 8 million GP characters, I'm never going to get that again. Where I'm in with a bunch of guys who are around the same level as me, and R8's just not that big of a deal. I think we've kind of hit that a little bit. Like there's some characters like the Kylo that's really great to have R8, but I'm just not struggling against R8 characters right now. And we've got an R8 of every GL in my shard right now, and they're just as easy to get through them at R8 as we're at R7.
Yeah, that's certainly fair. Yeah, the panic for Crankor hasn't really done, and as Scrybe said, I think time will tell on that. I definitely panicked when Heroic Sith Raid first came out, and I feel like that might have been a little bit justified. My guild ended up taking about 6 months, 7 months to get there, and yeah, they didn't want to bring in Merc help, which is also something that I guess we could mention that your guild could consider doing. I don't know. I think it's a point of pride for some guild leaders, but I'm kind of in the pride only hurts never helps camp of, yes, you're not going to get the top bill slot or top 3 even maybe, but you're also still getting, if assuming that you're not, 50 slot guild at the moment, rewards for everyone else that you wouldn't normally otherwise be getting. And Rancor mercs can be a little bit hard to come by right now too, so I think there might be some ready and willing people, especially as long as CG allows Kylo to still exist in the video game and enter Rancor. We'll see. Yeah, asking for help.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Yeah, because they're like with one of my accounts is in an alliance, so I'm in the top guild, and then we are arranging with the lower level guild to send some guys over to help to finish. But as you mentioned, I don't think that Relic 8 is something you should really worry about. If you enjoy in the guild that you're in, you like the guys that you're with, and everything's fun. I don't think it's worth leaving just for Relic 8. Maybe Seafreight was a different situation because you got a brand new character. You got Treya, which was a brilliant character, but just for that Relic 8 material, I don't know. And speaking even of Seafreight, like in my guild, even soloing doesn't guarantee you top 10 anymore because half of guild got Kylo, and just the other day I think I was like 13th and I soloed the raid. So it's different, I guess. It's not something. Like if there are other reasons you might think to leave the guild, and maybe this is just kind of pushes you over the top to go and change it, but this really shouldn't be the only and even not the main reason, I think, to change the guild, at least at this stage, because we don't know what relic. But in most likelihood, majority of players, if you're in a guild that can't complete the new raid, probably Relic 8 wouldn't really actually make a whole lot of difference to you probably anyway.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. I think had a good session here, and it's probably time to release y'all back to boring old daily. I want to thank you all for stopping by, both in the call and in the chat. We want to go one more time around the horn. Hit your socials, plug your platforms, whatever you feel like doing. We'll start from the bottom this time. Bill, one more time for people.
Just on YouTube, StillPlays.
All right, Scrybe.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube. Just search for Scrybe Gaming, and I stream on Twitch most days as well. Also, search for Scrybe Gaming. I should be pretty straightforward to find.
Kin, I know. Where are you at?
Yes. So right now I do this thing with Fatal and some other people every month that everybody's watching, and I do a Skelltrix during GAC once a week, sort of a look at different fights and make some comments about them. And then I actually just started about a month ago, sort of a GAC resource center that's just in Discord now. Still just building up different tools, damage mitigation, sort of team overviews, focused just on GAC. And some of the people in here are helping me with some things. So we'll see. That's going to grow a little bit over time, but yeah, no YouTube channel or Twitch or anything like that. I don't have the setup or the time really to do that at the time. So I watch all of these wonderful people.
BitDynasty. What's up?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube. Just search for BitDynasty, and I have a tool called Swagger for Life. You can go and check it out because it's a nice way organized, the videos and all the guides that I'm doing, including 3v3 and 5v5 counters. So go and check it out if you haven't seen it yet.
Awesome. Last but certainly not least, since he's technically first screen, General Cody. People find you.
You can find me on YouTube at Commander Cody 66, and thank you guys for having me. It was a blast, kind of getting to hang out with some other content creators tonight. So appreciate the invite.
Absolutely, yeah. I had a lot of fun with this one. All right, one more time, thank you all, everyone in the chat for stopping by. I know Men in Blog came in with a raid at the very end. Kind of unfortunate timing. We're kind of wrapping up here, but appreciate you all this. Yeah, thanks you all for stopping by. Good luck in your upcoming Grand Arena seasons, and we will see